they said Arthur Hale could buy the world. His name glimmered on the skyline of the city, Hale Industries, bold letters that once meant ambition and success. Yet when his wife, Clara, passed away during childbirth, every shining window in his mansion turned dim. Money filled every room, but silence filled his heart. He had a newborn son, Noah, and a guilt so heavy he could barely lift his eyes to look at the child who reminded him of the woman he lost. Weeks turned into months. Arthur buried himself in work. He came home late, speaking only in brief sentences to the butler or the housekeeper. The nursery door stayed closed most nights. He told himself it was because he didn't want to wake the baby, but deep down he feared the flood of memories waiting behind that door. The household whispered that Mr. Hale had turned to stone, until the day Mrs. Lynch, the old housekeeper, brought a young woman to meet him. Her name was Elena Carter, a gentle-voiced nanny with calm brown eyes. She had cared for children in hospitals and had a way of speaking that softened even the most stubborn hearts. Arthur barely looked up from his papers. "You understand this is a temporary position," he said. "The child doesn't need affection, he needs discipline and order." Elena smiled, not offended. "Every child needs to be held before he learns to stand, Mr. Hale. Discipline comes later." He wanted to argue, but something in her tone reminded him of Clara's quiet strength. Against his better judgment, he agreed. At first, Elena worked like sunlight entering a dusty room, slow, steady, impossible to ignore. She spoke to baby Noah as if he understood every word, humming lullabies that reached the marble halls. Servants started smiling again. The house smelled of life and warm milk instead of cold perfume and cologne. Arthur noticed, reluctantly. One evening he returned early, an unusual impulse, and paused outside the nursery. Through the half-open door, he saw Elena holding Noah, rocking him gently, whispering stories about stars and angels. Noah giggled for the first time. Arthur froze. That sound pierced the shell he'd built around himself. Later that night, he stood by the crib, watching his son sleep. "You sound like her," he whispered, voice breaking. It wasn't the baby he was speaking to, it was fate, maybe God. From then on, Arthur began coming home earlier. He'd pretend to check reports but would secretly linger near the nursery door just to hear that laughter again. Elena never treated him like a boss, she spoke to him as a father trying to learn again. Sometimes she'd hand him Noah's bottle and say, "He won't take it unless you hold him." And to Arthur's shock, she was right. As winter approached, the mansion transformed. There was a tree in the great hall for the first time since Clara's death. Arthur caught himself humming once and felt embarrassed, but Elena only smiled. Clara would be happy, she said softly, arranging ornaments that had gathered dust for 2 years. He turned to her. "You knew her?" "No," Elena replied. "But every room in this house still speaks her name." Her words hit deeper than comfort, they were a mirror. Arthur realized he hadn't let his wife rest, he'd kept her memory chained to sorrow instead of love. That night, when Noah cried, Arthur didn't call for the nanny. He went himself. As he lifted the baby, tiny fingers curled around his tie. Something inside him finally gave way. He sank into the rocking chair, tears falling freely for the first time in years. Elena, watching quietly from the doorway, whispered a prayer of thanks. By New Year's, people around Arthur noticed a change. He laughed in meetings, donated to orphanages, and visited the staff kitchen just to ask how everyone was doing. When reporters asked about his new philanthropic drive, he said simply, "Someone reminded me that the smallest hearts teach the greatest lessons." But peace doesn't arrive without a test. One icy morning, an unexpected visitor came to the mansion, a lawyer carrying documents and an old photograph. The past, it seemed, wasn't done with Arthur Hale.